Today, on the day, we are focusing on SDG7, ensuring access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all by 2030. We have a very special person as chief guest all the way from Ireland. We have with us Mr. Dudley Stewart, Managing Director, Micro Electricity Generation Association, MEGA. He is a renewable energy and smart grid digital technology pioneer and expert, a chartered power engineer from the TU Dublin and French INPG, field engineer Bangladesh mid-70s, founder CEO Alternative Energy 1977, senior wind energy advisor at Shell HQ, regional manager UN Appropriate Technology and Economic Regeneration Unit for East Africa mid-80s, including very basic microgrid projects in disaster relief situations in Africa. Secretary General of the RDI Group, Micro Electricity Generation Association, IEA award-winning state-supported Talag Smart Grid Test Bed 2009 to present, involving large tech companies, communities, and social agencies, and is operated in partnership with South Dublin County Council and under the guidance of International Energy Research Centre. Dudley directs Empower as energy solution provider to EU Lighthouse 2018. Dudley has been pioneering United Nations Sustainable Development Goals both inside and outside the UN across the globe since the 1980s. We are honored to have you with us today. Thank you so much for joining the summit. Over to you, Mr. Dudley.
Thank you very much. So greetings to you. I'm delighted and humbled to be your guest here this year. My name is Dudley Stewart, as you've said. I am a power engineer from Ireland. And like most Irish, I have spent a good deal of my life gaining experience around the world in other countries, across the globe, really. Having long served as a United Nations engineer, as you mentioned, it is really especially pleasing to be able to present the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and particularly on energy, Sustainable Development Goal 7. I first discovered the importance of energy as a young engineer in Bangladesh in 1974. I was there to do irrigation. Irrigation needs energy, and we had an energy crisis that happened worldwide. And so we had to drive our imaginations and get other alternative energy sources going to get the pumps going. And that started off my career. So I learned, my university was in the field in East Bengal. So obviously pumps are needed to grow crops, to put food on the table. So what do you do in an energy crisis, And, we are going through energy crisis all the time in different places. Look at the USA this year. Sometimes 2,000 kilometers of transmission lines have been completely locked out. 490 substations, entire areas, millions of people without energy or electricity in the USA. And we also have extreme problems here in Ireland. We're coping very well, which is quite interesting. So the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, number 7, there's just 3 core goals. I just want to kind of emphasize these, to ensure universal access to affordable, reliable and modern energy services. That's core. To increase sustainability, substantially the share of renewable energy in the global energy mix. That's what we're doing here. And 3, to double global rate of improvement of energy efficiency. So I try and keep on focus on these areas. Energy lies at the heart of the Sustainable Development Goals. Everyone, everywhere, needs access to energy to live and thrive, to work, to make products, to eat, to have light, to learn, to get entertainment. Without energy, how can we irrigate crops? And, we always take it for granted, many of us, but all of the time we're getting faced with difficulties. Short difficulties, but some people are faced with very big difficulties. Look at the USA. The whole business of energy has been always very unfair. The Irish suffered a huge famine and energy starvation under the colonial rule. I remember some decades and more, half of the world without electricity. Only a decade ago, half the world without electricity, including my own home in Ireland. We had no electricity as well. So we went to school to have electricity. So that is all changing now. It's very good. There is a big leveling taking place worldwide. Not so many people now are without electricity. It's very much down to, from 50% to maybe a maximum 20%, and this is very interesting. And even the big powers are adjusting to energy scarcity at the moment. So change is the big thing for everyone, and we're going through a huge transition. A basic need like safe cooking continues to be a huge challenge. Places in the USA and Ireland also have this problem. There are a lot of good things going on, but much more has to be done to keep improving while climate extremes ravage. And we witnessed that in the USA, quite shockingly. Millions of people caught in situations that they never dreamed of before. And so our system needs to gear to this concept that everything stays the same is kind of dated. Energy, clean energy from independent local sources, simple, interoperable devices to make energy. Services to supply spare parts. That's a very important part of the whole thing. Complex equipment that can ride through difficult situations, complex digital equipment that's capable of becoming quite simple. This is a big problem in urban areas, to be able to ride through difficult areas, to adjust the way controls work, so you can actually ration electricity. So we're working very hard on this in Ireland, using the microgrid systems for rationing of energy. We have 8 years left to ensure access to affordable, reliable, and modern energy services. This is a worldwide issue. So in places that are advancing and in other places, mature economies, very serious difficulties are arising with an aging electricity system, with an inflexible attitude towards energy, and with probably undue complexity and unfair, a lack of interoperability between equipment. We as part of the Sustainable Development Goals, we see it as being very important that machines, devices, renewable energy devices, and people can communicate and respond rapidly. The big opportunity in renewable energy, we all know this. Energy from the sun delivers more than we could ever need. So I just want to reinforce that point. Solar, PV, wind power, water power, energy from waste, from crops. With energy, one day, we can make unlimited amounts of hydrogen gas. It's happening, but a lot more has to be done to bring the economy of that. So, we're in a crisis of moving away from oil, moving away from climate damaging fuels towards renewable energy. And at the end of the tunnel, there is very good light, but there's some very difficult years ahead to get, to the point. We've brought down the costs of PV. We've brought down the costs of big wind. We need to bring down the costs of smaller wind to make it more interoperable. We need to make the digital aspect of it all capable of operating at more simpler levels when needed and more complex levels when possible. adapting, agile, and being available. So hydrogen is very much the future in Ireland. We're looking to the expansion of offshore wind. Our grid is not capable of taking the excess, and therefore we are looking at, we're definitely, like Scotland, at power to gas, making hydrogen out of seawater. And that's advancing, but it's going to take another 10 to 15 years to get this down in value so that it can be a common use item. And that's why, you know, we have to talk about efficiency, and this is where microgrids come in. You know, efficiency is not just about installation. You know, we have to use energy wisely. We can get through periods of scarcity if we are accustomed to using energy wisely. It's very difficult if we're not. Clever devices can help us, smart devices can help us use energy wisely. I was just joking there earlier that, you know, I wouldn't exist as an engineer anymore if there aren't people designing smart devices that can be connected into microgrids. And these are all energy saving devices, energy efficiency. It's often seen as just merely a situation of installation. Energy efficiency, you know, it is the important thing. We are on a planet where people do not have direct access to energy. It's something we buy from somebody else mostly. Yeah, well, here we're in an industry, so we do have access, but in fact, you know, the challenge now for us is to open up a situation where people can have access to energy from the sun in a much more easy way. And this will take a lot of tensions out of the situation. Energy is more than a business. It's a basic need. It's as basic a need as water is and food. We need people also to want to make this happen. It's not something that we can drive from within the industry. We need people to want to have independent sources of energy, to want to be able to take it on, to form communities, to work together. This is an important part in terms of enabling our digital technologies to actually go out there, to enable our microgrids to work. Our microgrids can't work unless people want to collaborate together. And collaboration is what this meeting here is all about. And collaboration is all about how we can get through the future. But collaboration requires open access, interoperability, and a fair deal of honesty and trust. And again, this kind of forum helps in that manner. It helps us to understand each other. And this is an important part of the energy equation, because energy is a basic need, not just simply an industry or not a business. It is something that is a part of life that we need and must have. So we need renewable energy devices to be appropriate. You know, it's like an old word, appropriate technology, but we actually have a very advanced technology, but we need that advanced technology to be appropriate. And also we need it to be agile. So the USA had a very big challenge this year, and the UK and other places, with regard to the lack of agility in the energy system. And so our experience in Ireland, and my experience in East Africa, because I was in charge of microgrid generation in East Africa, and I learned most of my trade today in East Africa, suffering from the problems of the absence of digital technology. Now we have the digital technology, but increasingly, to be competitive, we were making the digital technology complex, you know. So people are getting driven by, you know, data and this kind of thing, and it becomes, you know, a difficulty. It's very important that we who are designing devices for this system enable our devices to work at a very much simpler level, so they can't be attacked for ransom, you know, where our viral attacks. They need to be able to fall back on basic control systems. And I think, you know, I mean, I could get very complicated about this, but my last 30 years in pioneering digital technology in microgrid operation has basically taught me that we need our systems to be able to fall back to very much more simple systems. We won't always have the service people we want to service things. Things will fail. It's our famous Irish law, Murphy's Law. If anything can go wrong, it will. And it does. We're engineers, we know this. It happens all the time. So we need to be able to get our systems to go back to a much more simple level. We need people to be willing to cooperate on a local level, sharing and trading energy. We need the system also to become more willing to allow that. But we need the users of the system to be more respectful of the system. So I'll go on that a bit more. And energy efficiency itself needs to be appropriate. It should not be an instrument of human suppression. Often it is used as an instrument of keeping economies down, you know. Energy efficiency does need to be appropriate, not exaggerated. When we started designing wind generators, I started in 76, where wind generators were terribly inefficient when you look at the transfer of energy. Solar PV is very inefficient. So the point I'm making here, the issue of efficiency is one of the costs in terms of money, and the costs in terms of the climate, and the costs in terms of environment and people. Balance is needed in the energy efficiency space. I have enjoyed a lifetime of international collaboration and technology transfer. It was tough, but with my African and Central European collaborators, we were able to actually advance and develop. How would we have been able to make progress without collaboration? So my experience is saying it's all about collaboration, 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 and that only works when there's trust. So I'm delighted to be here because we're reinforcing that concept, you know, and it's a very good thing that all of these people that are coming together through your wonderful organization to discuss and collaborate. No man is an island. The power of one is only meaningful when one can collaborate in making and using energy. So we need energy grids. We need to respect energy grids. We don't need to look at energy grids as a right, because that makes the energy grid operators fearful, defensive, and unwilling to adapt to change. So we on the other side, outside of the main grid system, need to be very understanding of how the grid works and be very careful to ensure the disturbance neutrality of our activities on the grid so that others can develop and so that the grid operators can become gradually more flexible and more willing to open themselves up to other people. And this is a universal problem everywhere. So we can do more. So I want to thank you for this brief moment with you, and delighted to assist with the sustainable energy goals. I'm willing to answer any questions you like, you know, and perhaps, you know, turn it into more of a conversation. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Opportunities of microgrid for a rural energy sector.
Well, you know, microgrids, you know, enable the, you know, maximum deployment of renewable energies. You know, if there is a limit to the amount of renewable energy you can actually install, obviously, in any part of the system, without sometimes having massive overloads. And the usefulness of the microgrid is that it can create the balance. And also it's amenable to things like power conversion, storage, you know, for coming back and being the last mile and being the reserve, for staying in island mode, for, you know, when there's a blackout, a microgrid can stay on. In Texas, you know, when the whole system went down in Texas in the USA, 5 microgrids survived throughout the entire period without a glitch. And so microgrids are all about resiliency. They're all about sustainable development goals, number 7, you know, and so it's not just about, you know, the places where I worked in Africa. We need these so badly over here. That I brought my learning from Africa to here to Ireland, and we're working on being able to do that. We're able to house a massive amount of data centers here because of that, because of the microgrids keeping the stability of the grid. And so that's my answer is, you know, we are looking at an energy system, you know, electricity, gas, heat, cooling, and mobility, which is basically a cellular smart grid, if you like, of all energy forms.
Thank you so much. And I have one more question to you. How can blockchain technology promote more energy trading and sustainable energy infrastructure?
Okay, well, we're using blockchain technology at the moment we've been on this for quite a while, but I mean, mostly we're using it now for flexibility. So we've got a lot of inflexible, like wind power. So it comes when the wind is raging, and it's just suddenly you have the doldrums and it stops. So it's very jerky. So at the same time, people's habits of using power have become very unpredictable. Oh, particularly during the COVID pandemic, it was very difficult to predict. So flexibility is needed to be added to the system, so you can balance between what's being produced and what's being used. And you don't have a situation of, you know, well, let's exaggerate and say blowing up the grid, you know, or creating a blackout or running out of power. So flexibility, electricity is operating at the speed of light. And so we're using 1 second interval meters operating within, you know, community grid systems. And that's able to therefore deliver flexibility that isn't in renewable energy from people. So the people deliver the flexibility by turning things on and off, but they don't have to do it themselves. Automation does it for them. And in that way, they're able to serve the grid. They can earn money from the grid. They can reduce their energy bills because they're being useful to the grid. But this is not possible without blockchain. Now, there are barriers to blockchain in the existing system still through the retailers and various other things. Quite a bit of change is necessary, but from our point of view at the moment, blockchain is immediately a no-brainer in supplying the flexibility needed to keep the system going because the grid operator needs it.
Thank you so much. And one more question I would like to ask. What do you think are the opportunities for global startups, SMEs, for solving SDG7?
Might it be possible for you to repeat that question?
Yeah. What do you think are the opportunities for global startups and SMEs for solving SDG7?
Well, I mean, SDG7 is the fundamental. Energy is the fundamental. You know, so, you know, oil and coal and fossil fuel in general, you know, they've had their day, but climate is a problem. And climate is ravaging the world and is going to cause a lot of problems. SDG7 is enabling renewable energy. It's enabling people to get involved, localization, all of the things that are important in advancing into the future. So businesses that see the opportunity presented by a world that's trying to collaborate to achieve Sustainable Development Goals 7 will go through difficult periods because they are new and they will be bringing change, but they are the ones that will thrive and outsurvive the rest.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dudley. That Wonderful session. We have a lot to achieve, and as you said, together we can. So that's what we are also trying to achieve. Thank you so much for joining us today in the summit.
Thank you. Together we can.